effort to preserve the Lowcountry's Gullah Geechee culture spans from the Lowcountry all the way to the nation's capital. It's a rich culture with food, history, art, and of course, the people. Today, we want to introduce you to Miss Carolyn White of James Island. She's known as the Matriarch of Gullah Storytelling. This is the first in a series that I'm working on called Gullah Connections.
Well, back on the farm, the bull hog always, furnished for the farm, so the other have little piglet and things like that, and the big bull head was hard though. Yeah, their pa tell him, well, don't go back down by the creek, he going anyway.
At 85 years old, Miss Carolyn White says her passion for preserving the Gullah culture is stronger than ever. For more than 5 decades, she's traveled around the world sharing the history of her people.
People ask me that question, well, how you learn Gullah? I said, how you mean, man? Live up and raise up with the Gullah folks on the island. So naturally you hear the click in my ear, and I could do that.
The Gullah Geechee people are the direct descendants of enslaved West Africans who were brought to the Lowcountry. Through food, cultural traditions, and the Gullah language, the Gullah people are one of the last remaining cultures who have retained a majority of their African roots over centuries.
But it never left me, and I'm not ashamed because I grew up around these people, farmers and builders. My daddy was an expert bricklayer, built his own house, built his own store, and is still on the corner of Fort Jonathan and Camp Road.
Proud of the people who have come before her, persevering through years of tough hurdles, White says when she's booked for a Gullah storytelling event, her energy is infectious.
Well, usually I'll start off like, how Hannah doing? How, they look at me, how Hannah doing? And that words mean all of you. Hannah, a group of people. How Hannah doing today? Hannah having a good time? Hannah well?
The Geechee accent and Gullah language began as simplified ways of communicating among enslaved Africans who spoke many different languages.
The ancestors, that's what they knew. And when they had to work in the field, listen now, Martha couldn't all the time tell what they were saying and talking about him because they were speaking in Gullah and their native language, doing the work, but yet they were cursing him out and he didn't even know it.
Gullah is the only distinctly African Creole language in the United States, and it has influenced traditional Southern vocabulary and speech patterns. White says she hopes that the current generation continues to honor the Gullah culture and share the stories of our people.
So I enjoy telling it because I don't want it to kind of die. Because the young children now, they really don't know. But I have a couple of little great-granddaughters there in Charlotte now. And she said, Granny, I know how to speak Gullah. I said, well, yeah. I said, tell me something. He said, gal, I've been to the market today. I said, you caught him that year.
Ms. White says she is proud of the work that she's been able to do to preserve such a unique culture. She says, as the matriarch of Gullah Storytelling, there's one line in all of her stories that reminds everyone that she's the one to turn to for all things Geechee.
If you want to know the true thing about things, don't ask Pa, ask man. You'll get the right answer.
I really wanted to emphasize a culture that's been impacting us for so long, not only on a historical level, but a cultural and social one as well.
The Gullah Geechee community, a community that has impacted the history of the Lowcountry, but still unknown to some.
I asked the Bonners, during our educational portion, I was like, how many of you guys, what do you really know about Gullah? Not a lot of people answered.
Alani Boyd, a sophomore at the College of Charleston, planned a service event for her and other Bonner leaders, a leadership program that highlights impactful service for the community. Saturday's event featured the importance of agriculture.
One of the things that stuck out the most to me was how closely intertwined the Gullah Geechee culture is to African American culture and to American culture. And at the end of the day, it is American culture. It's a part of who we are, and I didn't realize how readily accessible fresh fruits and vegetables were.
While also opening the door to other conversations.
We've been in the South so long, but not a lot of people have that education about the culture. And with so many social issues that are impacting it, like gentrification, climate change, things like that, I really wanted to hone in on the cultural preservation of Gullah because it's so important.
Students spent the day harvesting fresh fruits and vegetables and celebrated with a meal.
That's also a great part of the Gullah culture because, you're so resourceful and you take from the land and You take the seasonal vegetables and whatever's growing at that time to really enhance your own food.
Boyd hopes that what her classmates learn here will impact future generations.
Help hopefully start maybe more of an effort to help keep the integrity of the land and preserve it, essentially, not only for the ancestors of the people within the Gullah community, but for the future of agriculture.
Along a narrow stretch of highway on Johns Island.
This space, as small as it is extremely powerful.
Stands a piece of Gullah Geechee history.
So it was that community center praise house that was there for everybody.
And it's one of a very few praise houses still standing in the U.S. Moving Star Hall has been the center of this Sea Island community for well over a century and the root of organizations that grew out of it.
This place here has been the grandmother, the mother of all of the other organizations that are out here on the island now, still serving the people.
Like the Progressive Club. Founded in 1948, it was formed to address the needs of the community.
There was such a need for the people at that time to be able to learn how to vote and to be able to read and write.
And today continues to address housing and health care on the Sea Islands. But it's the sound of praise that still beckons.
The presence of prayer and praise is still so profound here. And I believe the grounds have been consecrated with the spirit of the ancestors. And so when I'm in here, I'm moved. I'm moved in the spirit to do things that enhance and enrich the culture that is already left for us.
And that resonates with International African American Museum Director of Faith Communities, Reverend Demet Jenkins.
Every time I drive by it, every time I enter into the space, I feel like my ancestors have awakened.
Her grandfather was instrumental in the founding of Moving Star Hall. His story and those of others who have walked through the door of the hall will live on in a planned exhibit at the IAAM.
Part of my role is to make sure that we are in partnership with faith communities around the world. And for me, as a Charlestonian, it is important that our local people have as much relationship and connection to the museum as anybody else.
And it's a divine connection for those who still attend service in the sacred space.
It almost makes me a little teary as I think about it, because it is what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be intimate with each other. We're supposed to be orchestrated under that divine nature that keeps us together. And that's what it does.
Under the watchful eyes of the ancestors.